1. Awakening. The sea around Ardra is not just water. Folka knows this the moment they leave the calmer currents behind. The boat beneath them, a sleek Magitech vessel of Palladian design, humming with ancient energy, cuts through something that looks like waves but feels like memory, like fear given liquid form. The sky above is a bruised swirl of gray and violet, shot through with veins of pale light that pulse like a heartbeat. She grips the tiller, her knuckles white. The water responds to her. It always has. Even now, with the cruel mask of the Veritas discarded, the element recognizes its priestess. She can feel the currents beneath them, treacherous and alive, wanting to pull them under. You're fighting it. Reagan's voice is calm. He stands at the bow, one hand resting on the hilt of his blade, his blue coat whipping in the unnatural wind. He doesn't look back at her. He's watching the horizon, or what passes for a horizon in this place. A smeared line where turbulent sea meets turbulent sky. I'm navigating, Folka corrects, her voice tighter than she'd like. There's a difference. Is there? She doesn't answer. The truth is, she is fighting. Every instinct honed by years of war screams at her to force the water into submission, to dominate it, to make it obey. That's what the Veritas of the waters would have done. The cruel narcissist she built with forbidden self-hypnosis, layer by agonizing layer, until her true self was buried so deep she could barely remember what kindness felt like. But Folka is not that woman anymore. She is trying desperately to be someone else, someone who doesn't solve every problem with cruelty.
The problem is, kindness doesn't seem to be working.
Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. You wake to the smell of stone. No, that's not right. You wake expecting to smell stone, that mineral coolness old churches carry, incense sunk into ancient walls. But the air carries nothing. No dust, no wax, no weathered wood. Just the dry blank of a room sealed too long.
Your eyes open to a ceiling of vaulted stone, pale and clean, ribs of masonry arcing overhead in the kind of Gothic geometry you've seen in photographs of European cathedrals. Light filters through high windows. Real light. The color of early morning. Soft and gray and honest. It pools on a floor of polished marble laid in geometric patterns, pale blue alternating with cream. You're lying on one of the long wooden benches that line the walls, your cheek pressed against the grain. The wood is smooth with age, worn soft by generations of bodies seeking rest or prayer. You can feel every ridge and hollow against your skin. The detail is extraordinary, too precise, too textured for any dream you've ever had.
You push yourself upright slowly, the bench creaking beneath you in that particular way old pews do. Your body moves as it should. Your hands are your hands, familiar in their proportions, though the clothes covering them are not. Simple wool, undyed, rough but warm. Peasant's clothes. Pilgrim's clothes, maybe. You don't own anything like this. The chamber around you is empty and vast, the kind of quiet that feels sacred by sheer weight of silence. Rows of identical benches march toward a distant altar draped in white cloth. Above it, a circular window, not stained glass, but clear, letting in the pale morning light without color or distortion. The walls are unadorned, no paintings, no statues, just the clean lines of stone and the rhythmic repetition of pillars. Where the hell am I? You've never been to Europe. You've seen pictures, sure, friends' vacation albums, travel documentaries, the occasional film establishing shot. This looks like that, like Notre Dame's quieter cousin, or some monastery in the Italian countryside that tourists haven't discovered yet. The architecture is real. The weight of the place is real. The cold seeping through your thin wool clothes is absolutely, miserably real. But how did I get here? You remember, you were home. You were home, doing something ordinary, checking your phone maybe, or closing your laptop after a late night of editing footage for the channel. Then you went out to pick up a late night snack. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that should end with you waking up on a church pew in clothes you don't recognize. Did someone drug me? Kidnap me? You pat yourself down, checking for injuries, for anything missing. You feel fine. No headache, no nausea, no bruises. Your body works. Your mind works. You're thinking clearly, maybe too clearly. Your thoughts running in the familiar analytical grooves you've trained over years of breaking down game systems and narrative structures. Okay, assess. You're in an unfamiliar location. You don't know how you got here.
Panic is not productive.
You stand, testing your balance on the smooth marble. Fine. Your bare feet are cold against the stone. You're not wearing shoes. You realize, with a small spike of annoyance, but you're steady. The wool clothes are simple but complete. Tunic, trousers, a thin belt of woven cloth. Peasant chic.
Very authentic.
You take a step toward the altar, drawn by something you can't name, some instinct that says, if there are answers, they'll be at the center. Your foot comes down on something small and hard, and you hear it skitter across the marble with a sound like wind chimes.
You look down.
A crystal rests against the leg of the nearest bench, glowing faintly from within. Small, no larger than your palm, but perfectly formed, six-sided and pale blue, catching the gray morning light and refracting it into something warmer, something alive.
You crouch and pick it up and...
It's warm. Warmer than it should be, given the chill of the chamber. It hums against your fingers, a vibration so subtle you feel it more in your bones than your skin, like a plucked string resonating at a frequency just below hearing. That's not normal. The analytical part of your brain notes calmly. Rocks don't hum. Crystals don't glow. As a child, you'd enjoyed walking in tobacco fields, scanning the upturned earth for arrowheads and crystals that you wanted to be magical, but were usually just dirty. This isn't like when I was a kid. Another part of you, deeper and less rational, feels a spark of recognition. You've seen crystals like this before. Not in real life, never in real life, but in countless hours of gameplay and splash screens and inventory icons and the spinning gacha, summoning animations that ate so many of your evenings. No, you think firmly. That's ridiculous. This is real. This is a real place. The stone is cold, the bench was uncomfortable, the light is real light. You're in Europe. You're in some European church, and you found a weird, glowing rock. And there's a rational explanation for all of this. The thought feels thin, even as you cling to it. You straighten up. The crystal's still in your palm, and that's when you hear the soft scuff of a footstep behind you. Traveler?
You spin, nervously turning towards the speaker.
A figure stands at the end of the bench row, pale robes falling in clean lines to the floor. A monk, clearly. The robes are white with tan trim, a deep hood pulled forward to shadow the face, a cloth wrap covering everything below the eyes. The posture is calm, hands folded, head slightly tilted in what might be curiosity or concern. Monks. Okay. European churches have monks. This is normal. This is fine. You seem disoriented, the monk says. Their voice is soft, gender neutral, calm in the way of people who have spent a lot of time in silence. Are you in need of rest? Sustenance?
You open your mouth to answer, to say yes, please. And also, where the hell am I and how did I get here? But in that moment of startlement, your hand moves without your conscious direction. A flick of the wrist. A mental push, like clicking an icon you can't see. The crystal vanishes.
Not dropped.
Not pocketed. Gone, with a faint chime that seems to echo inside your skull rather than in the air.
You stare at your empty palm.
The monk tilts their head a fraction further. Traveler?
What the hell? I'm fine, you hear yourself say. Your voice works. That's something. Just lost. Where is this place? The crystal sanctum. The monk gestures with one robed arm, a slow, deliberate motion. You are in the outer meditation hall. Pilgrims sometimes find their way here from the mountain road. Crystal Sanctum. The name lands in your mind like a stone dropped into still water, sending ripples through everything you thought you knew about this moment.
Not Europe. Not a church. The Crystal Sanctum. The neutral theocracy. The home of the Church of the Crystal.
You know this place. You've played through its story chapters dozens of times, farming materials, chasing limited-time events, watching cutscenes about its politics and its secrets. You know the layout of its halls, you know the names of its leaders, you know that beneath its peaceful surface it's tangled in the same web of war and conspiracy as every other nation on the continent of Ardra.
No, 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 no.
You look at the monk again, really looking this time, and the details you dismissed as European begin to rearrange themselves into something far more specific. The white robes with tan trim, the exact color of the Crystal Sanctum faction in the game. You can see the monk's eyes, nearly black in the dim light, soft, patient, like the earth after rain, but there is no nose visible beneath that cloth wrap. No bump, no shadow, no indication that anything exists there at all. The fabric lies flat against the face, as if it's covering nothing but smooth skin. Your gaze flicks to a second monk passing near a distant pillar. Same robes, same hood, same face wrap. Down to the exact fold of the cloth, the precise angle of the trim. Identical. Not similar. Identical. Duplicated in a way that real clothing never is. NPCs. Your mind supplies, the word arriving with the force of a slap across the face. Generic NPC monks. They all use the same character model. You inhale sharply and realize, with a fresh spike of horror, that you still smell nothing.
No scent of stone, no hint of the monk's presence, no trace of anything at all.
Slowly, with a hand that you have to force to remain steady, you reach up and touch your own face. Eyes, cheekbones, mouth, no nose.
Your fingers find only smooth skin where cartilage should rise, flat planes where nostrils should project. You can breathe. You are breathing, the air moving in and out through openings you can't locate. But the external structure is simply absent. Final Fantasy Brave. Exvius. War of the Visions.
The title crashes through you like a wave of ice water. The crystal. The identical NPC monks with covered faces. The complete absence of noses on every character model because the art style simply never rendered them. The menu that opened in your mind and swallowed a glowing shard into an inventory slot you can somehow feel. This isn't just a fantasy world. This isn't just a Final Fantasy world. This is that game. The game you played daily for years, the game you made content for, analyzing its systems, breaking down its lore, championing the overlooked strategic depth of its battle economics. The game that ended before its story could reach a proper conclusion, shut down by a company that ran out of time and resources before the final season could be written.
The game that, if its service end date has already passed in this timeline, might simply stop. A black screen. Connection lost. Nothing where something used to be. Your knees feel weak.
Traveler? The monk's voice cuts through the spiraling dread, still calm, still patient. You've gone pale. Please, sit. Let me fetch water. You let them guide you back to the bench. Your body complies automatically, sinking onto the smooth wood while your mind races through implications like a checklist of horrors. Okay. Assess. You're good at this. You've spent years analyzing impossible situations. You were in the Crystal Sanctum. That means you're on the continent of Ardra. The 5 kingdoms are at war. Gilgamesh is somewhere out there, trapped in his time loop, fighting the Realm Scourge, the world-ending threat sealed beneath Leona's castle. The thing that required an entire final season of content to defeat. A season that was started but never completed. And if you're here in this story at some point before that conclusion, then the solution doesn't exist. The pieces, Mont's armor, Jaden's gun, Mashari's necklace, Exia's rebirth, they're just fragments. Upgrades designed to sell characters, never assembled into a working whole because the developers ran out of time. End of service. You nearly choke at the thought. You remember the announcement. You remember the community's grief, the frantic rush to record cutscenes before they were lost forever, the bitter knowledge that you'd never see how it was supposed to end.
And now, you're inside it.
You need to know when you are. Before Exia's rebirth? After? Has Sadali already begun his descent into darkness? Or is he still the grieving missionary hoping for a miracle? Is Luartha still sorrow? Or has she found Victoria and claimed her name? You need to know how much time you have. Because if EOS is coming, if this world is on a timer, counting down to nothing, then you're not just lost in a story you loved. You're trapped in one that was never finished.
And the only person who might be able to write an ending is you. You close your eyes, feeling the phantom weight of that inventory slot in your mind. The crystal shard sits there like a promise or a threat, a tiny glowing thing in a grid of empty spaces you can somehow sense but not see. Assess, prioritize, act.
The old rhythm steadies you. You've spent years analyzing impossible battles and finding the economic advantage hidden in the numbers. This is just a different kind of system, a different set of variables.
You open your eyes and look at the monk, who has returned with a simple clay cup of water. "Thank you," you say, and your voice is almost steady. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course."
What's the date? The year, I mean. By the Leonis calendar.
The monk tilts their head, that small gesture of mild confusion, but answers readily enough. Your blood runs cold at the number they give. You know exactly where you are in the timeline now.
And you know with absolute certainty that the pieces of the final solution are already in motion, and that no one in this world has any idea they're all going to fail. Exia, you stammer, feeling a cold sweat beating above the mask that covers your face. Just like an NPC? The monk stiffens, but waits for you to say more before he reacts. They were the villains of Season 2, so while they may be neutral now, they were trained for and had just fought in a war. I'd better choose my next words carefully.
I understand she was a founder of this church. I was wondering if I might be able to meet her.
The monk shudders, then forces a smile. You are correct about our history, but I'm afraid she passed away many years ago fighting to seal the Realm Scourge.
Your heart beats with the pace of EDM.
The monks shouldn't know about the Realm Scourge, not until after it was released. Sadali kept that backstory a secret until he released the thing. This is definitely Season 3. The good news was that if Exia hadn't been revived yet, then there was still a few months left in the story. Enough time to figure out how to escape before end of service, you hope.